Joining us next on our Time Space Visualiser this week are two fabulous actresses who both have girl power in abundance. One goody and one very much for the bad. Best known to all Doctor Who fans as Moola and the nurse, well, aka Queen Xansia, from the season 16 key to Time Story The Pirate Planet, please welcome Primi Townsend and Rosalind Lloyd. How are you guys?
Great.
Thank you, Jason. Lovely to be here. And here's Olive, in case anybody's ever met her at one of the events.
Hi,
Hello, Olive. Is she a Jack Russell mix?
She's a cross between a Dachshund and a Lancashire Heeler.
Ooh.
And I'd never heard of Lancashire Heeler. I got her from Battersea. But a woman stopped me on the beach. Where I live, there's a beach. And we were walking, and she said, "We've had Lancashire Heelers all our lives, and you've got one there. Half of one.
Wow.
The other half is Dachshund."
I've never heard of her either, but she's lovely.
Yeah, she's a good girl. I'm going to put her down now.
We miss having dogs. We had dogs all our lives until we moved here, but we like to travel up and down and spend a few months in Florida every winter, which we've been doing. So you can't really have a dog, and so we had to let go.
I went to Florida once. I did a ski yogurt commercial on the beach at Coconut Grove.
Oh,
It's a long time ago.
yeah, it's very challenging, let's say, some of it, because it is full of old people, and some of them are very, very old. You don't see it in England. You know, the oxygen tanks and the pipes and the wheelchairs everywhere. But where we've been going is beautiful, and it's very, very sort of sun-kissed palm trees. It's the classic. Beach across the road, lots of walking, lots of exercise. We love it.
Well, there's no wonder you love that. That sounds absolutely gorgeous, I've got to be honest. Now, we've got an international reunion going on right now. So this is the first time you guys have spoken to each other in quite a long time, I understand. We
reckon about 8 years, don't we, Primi?
It's got to be at least, yes. Yes, I don't know when lovely Bruce Purchase died, but it was just before that, when we did that thing for Doctor Who.
We did a new event, yes. Long before I moved to where I am now, and I've got Olive. I didn't have Olive with me on that occasion. Yes.
No.
A while ago.
And prior to that, Ros, it was about 30 years.
Yes.
Yes, of course it would have been. How's lockdown treating you both? Are you all safe and well?
You go first, Primi.
We're pretty good. The weather, the winter here, which we tried to escape, we had to come back to, and it's been going on a bit. And there have been a few people in this little town we're in, which is very, very kind of not isolated, but it is pretty isolated. And there's not a huge population. And I think there's only been a couple of cases. So we've been very, very lucky. And we're fine. But, you know, I keep reading about people in the UK and people in New York. And I'm just so grateful that we've got all this space and the kind of the woods. We've got loads of walking areas. We don't have to be cramped into an apartment like so many people. It must be hell for them. But yeah, we're good. We're very good.
And how about you?
Actually, it's very interesting. I'm in a very similar situation because I'm on the Isle of Wight, and I've got a beach to walk on and a beautiful wide open space and a garden, and so I feel very blessed. And it's a similar thing because on the island there aren't as many cases as there are on the mainland as well.
Yeah.
I feel I'm just a walking cliche at the moment because I'm doing all the things they say are good for you, but I do it anyway. Baking, gardening, and walking the dog. So I
absolutely get that. Yeah, without the dog, we're doing everything else, and we've got beaches just down the road. We've got hills just up the road. We see virtually nobody except Talia, our daughter, who lives literally 100 yards away from us. So she comes most nights and has a quarantini with us. And sometimes has dinner, sometimes she doesn't. So we're basically, living a very isolated life in the woods, but I love it. Suits me.
Primi, that's another thing we've got in common. Your daughter, I'd forgotten her name was Talia. My granddaughter is called Talia. My son's daughter.
There you go. Yes. Is it spelled T-A-H-L-I-A?
T-A-L-I-A.
Ah, yeah, that's the normal spelling.
Yes, yeah. But she's the eldest one. Yeah.
Wow. So. Well, we don't have any of those, but I'm perfectly happy with that. Children are enough for me.
Okay.
Well, there we go then. So, reunion over with. We're going to go back to girl power now, just very quickly. So, obviously, one of you played the goodie, one of you played the baddie. So, let's start off with Primi. You got the short straw, in my opinion, in the Pirate Planet, because you got to work with little K9 for most of the story and get some of that location stuff. That looked like it was a bit of fun there.
It was, but it was bloody cold because we were in Wales. We were going up and down, I call them mountains. The Welsh would probably laugh at me and say they're not mountains, but they felt like mountains. We had this little fake dog thing on wheels, and they had to keep changing the tracks that it was running along. And we were dressed, well, you weren't doing this bit of filming, were you? But I was. I was dressed in like a bright orange lurex, skin-tight, stretchy suit thing and a cape, and that was about it. So it was freezing. But yeah, I mean, I was young, it was fun, and it was all fairly new. I hadn't done anything like that before, so it was very exciting.
And Ros, you didn't really get out onto location at all, really. You were pretty much studio bound for most of the story, weren't you?
Completely. From the Acton Hilton where we did the rehearsals, which I always remember being great fun because our lovely John Leeson, who played K9, would come to the rehearsals and he would be K9. So he would crouch down at the side of wherever we were marking out the set, and out would come that voice, yes, master, and all that would go on. So we were really into it with John being K9 for us all the time. And then, of course, for us, it was straight into the BBC Television Centre, and I think it was Studio 6. I don't know why I've got that in my mind, but I think we were in Studio 6, and that the whole thing with the spaceship and everything that went on was built there in the studio.
I mean, the story for me looks like it was just one bit of a laugh right from the start, right to the finish. I mean, it's first of all, it's got a fantastic Douglas Adams script to start with, which obviously is going to lift any production in itself. But I would have thought, really, from day one in rehearsals, you were pretty much just having a laugh. I mean, you know, Tom's well known for having a joke around in rehearsals.
As well as that, Primi, do you remember this? Our lovely director. Now, remind me, Jason.
Roberts.
Pennant, yes, Pennant. Pennant would get very into it, and we were all gasping for a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. And I don't know who started this, but it became a point where he's gone on, we've been at it now for hours, we all need a coffee break, whatever. So somebody started going, tea break, or coffee break, which is not really the thing to do at the moment, but it subliminally got through to Pennant. Oh yes, I think we'll all stop and have a cup of coffee now, everybody. Thank God for that. It was quite fun, yeah.
I had forgotten, but I think you're right. I remember something like that. Pennant was quite intense, and he was very Welsh, and he'd get very excited, and he'd get very like this, and oh no, you're doing it all wrong, we got to do it this way. And he would get very, very sort of rugby player-ish. But I loved Pennant. He became a very, very close friend.
Yes, dear man. The whole thing, everybody got on, didn't they? It was a good cast.
I think so. I don't recall any unpleasantness or awkwardness. I think it was a good cast, a lot of fun, and from then on we stayed. Well, obviously Mary Tam was a great mate. She'd been Roger's one of his very first ever clients back in the day. So they were very good friends, and then I became very good friends with her. David Warwick, I'm still in touch with. Pennant until he died, sadly. And don't really know about anybody else, but definitely David and Mary remained friends for a very long time, obviously, till Mary died too.
Mary was on the planet's surface with you, so I didn't get to work with Mary at all on the show. I was with
That's
Bruce.
true.
Bruce and Tom, obviously, and John Leeson, and Andrew, who was Bruce's little sidekick.
Yes, Andrew Robertson, was it something?
Andrew Robertson, that's right. Yeah.
He was lovely. He was very funny.
Yeah. So we had a lot of laughs doing that. That was good, especially with the mechanical parrot. Jason,
yes.
I don't remember the parrot.
Oh, God, yes, I remember that.
Parrot. It caused a lot of problems because it didn't behave the way it should do. And Tom got quite exercised by that parrot. It was...
That was very highly technical for those days. I do remember that. My God, can you imagine now if you had all the things they have now that they can do? It would just be incredible. We look at that now and it looks so basic. It's quite extraordinary.
But it was high tech for its day, I think.
Sorry?
And high tech for its day, for sure, I think. There was a beautiful scene, actually, and I'm surprised you managed to get through it without corpsing too much, actually. Ros, it's a particular one for you, particularly with Bruce on the bridge. There's yourself, Bruce, and Mr. Fibuli, and you're about to make Tom walk the plank, and that whole scene just cracks me up from start to finish.
Yes, we did have a lot of giggles. You've frozen on me, Jason. Oh, that's right. We had a lot of giggles doing it. It really was fun. And you mentioned Douglas Adams. I think that's the thing. You know, you just feel so honoured, really, to have been given a script by the great Douglas Adams. And that's why I think the humour came into our story.
I think that's absolutely true. I didn't know anything about Douglas Adams. I learned later, obviously, much later. But I'm sure that's why we had so much more humour than I recall other episodes having or other plot lines having, because it was surreal, a lot of it, really, if you look at it. Very, very odd plot, very odd ideas, but very funny.
It took me ages to get my head round what the plot was all about. And
I don't think you're meant to.
I mean, once I realised, oh, that's what's supposed to be happening. That was fine, but it took ages I didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah, I honestly don't think you're ever meant to follow these sorts of plots very, very carefully. You just say the lines and have a laugh.
Yeah.
And I think that, as I said, that comes across quite well. I think the whole cast seems to really work really well together. And it's always difficult, I think, for whenever you go into it as guest cast. It's always difficult when you go into a production, which is a long-running piece, because it's always difficult to slot in. But obviously, in that instance, you've only got Tom and Mary as the regulars there, so to speak, and the rest of you are all coming in together. And like I said, it just feels like a really good story. It's a well-remembered story, and you know, one that certainly, and I've taken the opportunity to rewatch it to familiarise myself again with it. But I just thought it was brilliant from start to finish when I've watched it, and you can really tell the signs of Douglas in there, particularly.
I think the very funny bit that made me laugh is when you watch it now and you see Mary and Tom going up in those sort of spaceships. They look so very, very basic by today's standards. It's almost like a child playing with those things. I just think they're hysterical.
Yeah.
They look like speedboats, and I think they are.
Yes. Maybe that was the design, because they couldn't envisage what spaceships would look like. I don't know, but I do remember watching it not that long ago and thinking, oh my God, that, you know, it's so basic, but funny. Oh, you've got something flying around you.
There's a fly. This place is full of flies today. I've got the back door open into the garden because Olive wants to go in and out, and these flies keep coming in.
How dare
Too
they?
many of them.
The rewatch as well has made me chuckle, particularly with the current climate, because I couldn't help but get a real sense of the captain and Mr. Fibuli, very Trump and Pence, it's got to be said. I think there's a little bit of Donald Trump and a bit of Mike Pence going on there with the two of them.
Oh, don't tell me that. I'll never be able to watch them again. I find them laughable as it is, but the thought of Fibuli, oh, that will finish me now.
You both...
You're right.
No, there's very much, because the captain's very much, it's going to work like this, and Mr. Fibuli's there, and he's trying very much to tell the captain that everything's going to be okay, and it's perfectly good. And I just couldn't get it out of my head. And I think, unfortunately, I've watched too many Trump and Pence press conferences, I think, over the last couple of weeks, because they've become almost compulsive viewing insofar as they're so funny. They're almost like a sitcom for me.
Regular comedy routine.
Yes.
I love the one with the disinfectant and that poor woman, the medical advisor, wanting the earth to swallow her up, and she was sitting there looking rather like you, Primi, with her lovely scarf.
Oh, scarf, yes.
She sat there with her scarf, and she looked at, and then you saw her face when he was saying about, and they could inject it, and she was like, what? Terrible.
It became a thing throughout the whole of the internet, all over the television screens. They kept freezing on her reaction and showing it again and again. And the fact that she didn't say anything. I just can't get my head around, why didn't she stand up and say something?
And of course, she's not been seen since, I don't think. So
no.
She's allowed to come out in front of the camera. We're whizzing it right back quickly then. Just give me, each of you, just give me one of your memories, one of your lasting memories, if you like, of your time on the show.
Wow, you go ahead.
Thanks. Well, it's got to be the dual, just the overall dual thing of working with Tom and the script by Douglas. Because to me, Tom, until David Tennant turned up years later, Tom to me was always the doc. He was the main man, as far as I was concerned. And I'd started watching it at school with William Hartnell and loved them all the way through. But to work with Tom was a very special thing. But also have the added bonus of that script by Douglas. So it's a kind of general thing. It's not at one little tiny moment, it's the whole thing.
Yeah, I really sticks in my mind is the scenes where, and we did get corpsey a lot, the scenes where David, my grandfather, Ralph Michael I think his name was, and Tom were all in this very small space, and Tom's leaping about, talking to me, talking to grandfather, talking to David, and I had the immortal line, and it's still, I've been told, one of the most irritating lines anyone's ever uttered on television, when I had to say, but why, grandfather? Why? And I think there must have been 10 whys in it. And I didn't understand at the time. I was just saying my lines and doing my thing. I look back on it now, and I mean, that sticks in my mind because we kept getting the giggles. All of us. Tom was the worst. And we'd have to start again. Tom was a terrible giggler. He really was. So that stuck out. There's lots of memories of it because it was fun.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of television, but it doesn't all stand out as a particularly solid memory. It blurs into one job, into another. But Doctor Who always stuck out, maybe because it was one of the earlier ones that I did. And we had a lot of fun.
And it looked like it all the way through. I'll tell you what, it's been an absolute pleasure to just bring the two of you back together again, just for this short period, just to have a quick recollection back over the Pirate Planet. It's lovely seeing you both. Thanks very much for taking the time out to come and join us here on our Girl Power Week on Time Space Visualiser. The force for the good and the force for the bad. Ros, Primi, thanks very much for coming on and joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you from across the pond.
And love to everybody, all the Who fans. Lots of love to you all. Stay safe.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you.